Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right. So let's proceed to today's. In this section, we'll be looking at operating systems security. From where we stopped previously, this month, week, we'll be looking at operating system security. And please, thank you. So, as always, if you have any question at any point in time, please do feel free to ask. Then, for those of us physically present, try as much as possible. The technical team should try as much as possible to enable the mic when it's time for questions and answer. So that way, both those physically present and those of us connecting online will be able to have full experience of this session. So let's proceed. So the first thing we'll be looking at this week under the subject of operating system security is fundamentals of operating system security. Fundamentals of operating system security. By way of a brief introduction again, I'm Victor Idono, cybersecurity professional engineer with a couple of certifications and experiences in the industry. So, by agenda today, we'll be looking at introduction to operating systems and their security significance, common operating system architectures, the likes of Windows, Linux, Mac OS, and there's a touch of their security models. They will also be looking at key security threats and vulnerabilities in operating systems. We'll talk about the malware, the zero-day attacks, etc. Then we'll also be looking at basic security principles, looking at confidentiality, integrity, availability. For short, that is the CIA triad. So let's delve straight into what we've got for today. What is an operating system? The software that manages the computer hardware and its resources is what we call the operating system. Every computer has an operating system, which is the software part of it that manages the hardware and the software resources available on that PC. Is what we call the operating system. It simply provides the common services for computer programs to function. It houses computer programs and provides them with the basic resources they need for full functionality. Examples of operating system includes the Windows operating system, the Mac operating system, and the Linux operating system. Now remember, we are looking at computer operating system. There are also mobile operating systems for your mobile devices, your tablets, your mobile phones, etc. So, what security goals does operating system provide? There are basic security goals operating systems provide. Originally, one of the goals includes time sharing computers. These enable multiple users to securely share a computer. And separation and sharing of processes, memories, files, etc. That was the foundation where computer resources are shared between multiple users securely, sharing of files, sharing of items, etc., as the case may be. So the threat model for that, users may be malicious, users have terminal access to computers. Software may also be malicious in terms of they can become buggy either at the point of development or over time when as innovations are happening, as usage is ongoing, as technology it's increasing, and hardware is depreciating. So bugs can actually come up in the process of utilizing these resources. So next is security mechanisms. The memory protection, the processor modes, the user authentication, the file access control, these are what the operating system puts in place for security. How does it manage and secure the memory? How does it process files, data fed into the computer or into the system with the input devices, and how does it output the result through its output devices? Then the user authentication, how does it authenticate users? And finally, file access control, how does it restrict access for security of our data and our information? So, what security goals does the operating system provide? Now we looked at what was provided initially. Now, presently, in more recent past and present, network desktop computers ensure secure operation in networked environment. So moving forward, there is now a need for collaboration, for networking, which is no more that isolated environment where users share resources on one computer. So there's now a need for network desktop environment, ensuring secure operation in a network environment. And of course, for every new innovation, there's tendency for new threats. So the new threat for this includes attackers coming from the network, and network facing programs or softwares on the computer may also be buggy. Then users may be hurt via online communication because there are more devices now connected on the network. There is now a communication channel which can include any form of communication we're already aware of, including email communication, social media communication, etc., video conferencing, and all. For the fact that this exists, a communication channel exists, there is also that tendency of attacks to also migrate from the local to the, you know, to the local or MAN network or PAN network, depending on whatever connection exists in that network space. So next is the security mechanism. The authentication for access control, the secure communication using cryptography. It now, because of the communication channel that have been introduced, there's now need for authentication to regulate access control. Then secure communication using cryptography. That is where HTTPS begins to come into the picture and the like. So there's secure communication using cryptography. Then login audit for everybody that comes in, whatever happens on the system, there's a need for a log to be created for audit purposes. Okay. So next is intrusion prevention and detection systems. There's a need to bring on board the IDS because you are now on a network. There's a need to bring on board the IPS for intrusion prevention. IDS is intrusion detection. IPS is intrusion prevention. You detect, and there are systems that detect and also take a step further to prevent. So next is recovery. There's a need for recovery to also be implemented on the network. And in this case, there are different recovery models which we'll look at in the course of this session. So moving forward, what security goals does operating system provide for the future? The present and the near future. Mobile computing devices. Now, today we have different devices with high processing power. Now, if we all agree, to some extent, we all agree that yes, processing power is gradually beginning to move from our physical devices to the cloud environment, to our mobile devices. On the go, you can process your Microsoft Word document, you can process your PowerPoint, you can process your, name it, anything you want to do at all, graphics, music, editing, etc. You can now process them on the go. Previously, we started from an isolated system. In an isolated system, everything is happening there. Users are sharing resources in one system. We now moved further to a network environment. Now we are moving forward. Now and in the near future, we're moving to mobile computing devices. You compute on the go. You're processing data information on the go. You don't need to be in a physical location as it used to be. Okay. So we also agree that today applications are now gradually fully moving into web-based environment. Web-based in the sense they are providing room for higher capabilities in a centralized location, which can be referred to as your cloud hosting environment. Then users can simply access a session and do whatever they need to do without having to bother about their own hardware compatibility, hardware capacity, and all of that. So users' processes are now being highly dependent on the cloud environment. So mobile devices are coming up, and of course, for every new innovation, there are also emerging threats to it. And the threats for this phase includes apps or programs may be malicious. So for the fact that you are now using applications on the go, there's also tendency for applications to be malicious. And of course, more tightly connected with personal life of the owner. Now we now have applications that are more connected to us to the point we become so glued to these applications that it's difficult to sometimes if you're not careful, if you're not disciplined, it becomes difficult for you to actually concentrate on your day-to-day activities. We all agree that we spend a lot of time currently on WhatsApp, a lot of time on different social media platforms. Some persons prefer Instagram, others LinkedIn, others TikTok, others Twitter, that's X, and all of that. So it all depends on where you are connecting from. It all depends on the devices that are on per time. Next is the security mechanisms. What security mechanisms can or have been also implemented in this place, in this stage of phase to ensure the security of all users? One includes isolation of each app. So there's a need for every application to be isolated in a standalone environment. So you don't have two or three or multiple applications running in the same environment because there's that tendency of an attack hitting one spreading to the other. So there's a need for isolation of each app. Then also helping users assess risks of apps. So there also a need for that. Then risk communication. These are mechanisms that contribute to the security of this particular phase of operating system security. So next we look at computer system component. Computer system component. And with the computer system component, we talk about the hardware. Every computer has a component. We'll talk about the hardware, we'll talk about the operating system, we'll talk about the application programs, then we'll talk about the users. The hardware provides the basic computing resources, that is the CPU, the memory, the input and output devices, etc. Now, these are the components that make up the hardware part of the entire system or of the entire computer. You have your input devices, you have your output devices, your CPU for processing, your memory for storage, etc. Next is the operating system itself. After the hardware, there is an operating system that controls and coordinates the use of applications and programs. This is like you can call it the powerhouse of the entire system. Without it, nothing happens. It's the one that is enabling the applications to communicate effectively with the hardware. Okay. The operating system enables applications to communicate effectively with the hardware. It controls and coordinates the use of the hardware amongst the various application programs. It handles communication, it handles relay, it handles processing of everything that happens between the software, that is the applications, and the hardware. So next we move to the application programs. These define the ways in which system resources are used to solve the computing problems of users. The application programs varies. This provides a defined way of solving different problems. That is where you have programs for image editing, graphics editing, you have programs for data analysis, you have programs for word processing, you have programs for music editing, name it, video editing. So this is where different programs come into the picture, and they are all under application programs, and they are sitting on your operating system. Your operating system is sitting on your physical hardware, but the operating system is creating the handshake between the application programs and the hardware. Then finally, we now have the users. The users in this case is you, me, and every other person that is using the hardware, that is using the computer at that point in time. This includes people, machines, other computers, etc. Now, in our today's world, computers are using computers. Robots are using computers. Machines are using computers. Computers are using machines. So there's that room. IP addresses are assigned in the case of IoT, and there's communication between computers. There's handshake between computers. So in other words, computers can now begin to use computers. People are using computers. And if we are not careful, can as well agree that computers are now using people. Yes. So people, machines, and other computers are under the users, under the components of a computer systems. So these are the primary four basic components that make up the computer system as it is: the hardware, the OS, that is the operating system, the application programs, and the users. So moving on, this is an abstract view of your system components. Right here at the bottom, we have the operating system. Remember, we said this is what manages the handshake between the system and the application programs. And of course, the operating system is sitting on the hardware. Okay, so for the operating system and holding or housing the system application programs, will have the compiler, the assembler, the text editor, the database system, etc. Any application program that comes into the picture happens to be on this category. So with this, we have the users. The user can be you, can be me, can be a combination of two, three, four persons at a go, any number at all. It can also be, like we mentioned in the previous slide, that it can also be even other computers, other machines, etc. Okay. So next is system components. Under the system components, we'll have the motherboard, we have the input devices, we have the output devices, we have the CPU. The motherboard is the physical environment where your operating system sits on. It manages all of the processing capabilities. It houses all of the processing segments of your computer. Then you have the input unit, you have the output unit, you have the CPU, you have the GPU, you have the RAM, and you have storage unit for managing anything that relates to storage. So before we proceed to why operating system security matters, let's, if you have any question, please ask while I check the online tool for questions coming from the online platform. So any questions from those physically present on what we've discussed so far, please, let's use this section to ask.
Right. Contact. Yes, sir. We have question here. Someone has question.
Please, please go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
The based on the illustration you just gave about the abstract of view of system components,
Yeah.
like this one now, let's assume that there is an organization at a base university here, and then another one at let me say we say to a central area. with what you just created here, because what I learned in CCNA is like when they are using the same IPS address, they can still connect to the other this thing based on the same state code. I
Yes.
don't know whether you understand that.
Yes.
So this one I cannot go more than 3 users, but
Which one?
the one you just illustrated, an abstract view of system components. Like
Okay,
the
now
one here,
this
let's
particular
assume
one.
that they have, let's assume that they have more than they have three here, and in another branch they have like another three or four. Can they using the same? Maybe can I call it router or Wi-Fi or what? Can they still connected to other place, other branch based on they are in the same geographical location?
Hello, sir.
Think it's not so.
Hello, I can hear you.
No,
You went off.
back to my question.
Yes.
Can you get what I'm trying to point out, sir?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. So let me re-explain what I said earlier.
Okay.
Okay, now with what we have here, right? This abstract view of system components. We are not focusing on how many systems we have. This is an illustration of one component, which it can be likened to your physical laptop, where you have the operating system, you have the hardware itself, you have the application programs, and you can have multiple users on one application, on one system, on one computer system, right? Now, what you're describing is a situation where you have multiple computers sitting at different locations. Of course, they can all communicate together if they are on same network. You remember, I don't know if you've gotten that yet, but definitely we'll stick here to that, where there are different network setup. Okay, so there's network for within an office, which is LAN. There's network within different offices in different buildings. Then there's also the wide area network. So with what you're describing the network that has you're connecting from different buildings. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So all your PCs, all your users can still communicate in as much as they are on same network, not minding whether they are in different geographical location. And that is a man.
Okay, sir.
I hope it's
Thank
clear.
you. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Please, any other question?
Yes. Yes, there is.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
So I really appreciate your teachings. So my question is the operating system security and the endpoint security. Is it the same? And also a kind of complaint based on our previous nature on network security, sir. I want to ask, is there any way that we can have a kind of physical teaching on that so that we are asked to download and download and install packet tracer. And we have done that.
It's not the one.
Okay,
Different lecturer. So if I have issue, I'll send you email so you can send your complaint there.
okay.
In
So
lecturers.
I don't know whether I can help out on that regard, sir. Thank you.
Okay, well, what you're saying, I think that is on a different topic under network security. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for your network security and all of those applications you've downloaded and how to utilize them or more practical engagement with them, that will come up by the lecturer that took you that, right? So what we are handling right now is computer operating system security.
Any other question?
There is one as the endpoint is computer operating system.
Okay, sir. He said he asked about endpoint and computer operating system.
He said,
You say computer
Please
operating system, endpoint.
yes,
let him rephrase the question. I didn't
Come
get
on,
it.
repeat the
sorry. So the question is the operating system security and endpoint security.
Yes.
Uh, is it a different operating system or they are the same or they are coordination? Thank you.
Okay. So your question is the difference between operating system security and endpoint, right? Endpoint security. Now, operating system security deals with all we've been talking about, right? The security of your hardware, security of your system, depending on the device you are using, either your mobile device or your what's the name now? Your tablet or a physical computer. Then endpoint security talks about if you are in a network environment, there are different endpoints. So the security you apply on your operating system security is how do I put it now? Okay, operating system is in one spot, your computer, your physical system. The endpoint is in a network state. It can be you can have different endpoints in the network. You can have Windows operating system, you can have Linux operating system. There are endpoints in the network. So the security you apply on a network is different from the security you apply on your physical computer. So in that case, there's a difference between operating system security and endpoint security. I don't know if that is clear now. You understand?
It's clear. So, any other question? No questions, sir. You can go ahead.
All right, I'm looking for the link for online participants so we can check if they have, or you can help me check from your end if there's any question from online.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah.
So, someone is asking.
Okay, yeah,
Hello,
please go
sir.
ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, can you explain the major components of computers such as GPU and CPU?
Okay. Okay. So CPU is the CPU handles the processing power capability of your computer. That is the central processing unit. That is where all other components sit on. It handles your it carries your RAM and the likes. While the GPU is the graphics processing unit of the PC. It handles anything that relates to your graphics, your something like UI UX. Okay, so the CPU is the central processing unit which carries all of this. The GPU is a component of the CPU. Let's see the next.
So, another questions.
Okay, please.
He said, does it mean each user is having different software application? And please, can it be on same user? If yes, what is the benefit of putting them on different users?
Okay, now different users can share resources in a computer system. For example, let's take your regular computer as it is, right? You can decide to split your screen into two. You're using one application to watch a movie. Another user is using another side of the screen, maybe do his typing or do Microsoft Word, etc. That is what is really shown in the system. Or option two, you can even do extended screen. There you extend that screen, a user using that screen to do something else that doesn't require a lot of input by using the primary screen to do something else. That maybe you're the one utilizing the keyboard as the case may be. Now that is a literal version of what we have on the screen now. Now beyond that, you can have multiple users in a networked environment where you have different applications running on a server. So they can be feeding resources from the server as users or as clients. So there's like the server and the client aspect of it. So in that aspect, different users can utilize the system at the same time. You can think of it as having virtual environment where different users with different operating systems. So this time they are actually separated, but they are running on one infrastructure, which is the server or the cloud environment that you're running on. These are different users, different operating systems, running services or applications concurrently.
I think that's all for now.
All right, so let's proceed. Please, you could send me the link to the online one, either via WhatsApp. You can't get the current live one.
Okay.
So, moving forward, why does operating system security matter? Number one, it is the heart of the system. It is the heart of the system. The operating system controls access to hardware and data. Vulnerabilities in the operating system can also expose the entire system. So now, because of its capability, because of its processing around the clock, it is considered to be the heart of the system. And if there's any vulnerability on the operating system, then every other thing sitting on that system be compromised, including the physical hardware because they can be exploited. So everything totally and utterly depend on the operating system. That is one of the reasons why it matters. Next, it is a common target. Operating system vulnerabilities are favorite target for hackers because they know it's like hitting the bedrock of a system. Once you gain access to the operating system, then there's a lot of things you can do to everything that it controls, it manages, or that sits on it. So it's a common target for hackers. Then, of course, compromising the operating system can give attackers a complete control of the system. Common operating system architectures. There are different architectures, there are different types of operating systems, and the most common ones are the Windows environment, which is most popular desktop operating system that uses a security model based on user accounts and permissions. Then we have the Linux operating system. Linux operating system is an open source operating system widely used in servers and embedded systems. It employs a similar security model to Windows, right? But it has it's majorly used in servers and embedded systems. And of course, it's an open source. There are different contributors making contributions to it every now and then. They will have the Mac operating system. This is is a custom operating system by Apple for desktops and laptops. It's based on Unix with additional security features like the Gatekeeper, the Xprotect, etc. So the confidentiality, integrity, and availability triangle, which is the CIA triad. Under this, the we have a triangle. To one end is confidentiality, another integrity, and to the other end, availability. So under the CIA triad, confidentiality covers protecting data from unauthorized access. If you have a data on the system, there's a need for you to ensure that it's protected and it remains confidential. While integrity is ensuring that data accuracy It's ensuring data accuracy and preventing unauthorized access or modification. Unauthorized access is confidentiality. Unauthorized modification is under integrity. Then availability, ensuring that authorized users can actually access systems and data when they are needed. So if you don't have access to a particular resource when you need it, you can consider availability lost. So in that situation, availability has been lost. So common operating system threats. There are common operating system threats that we can look at. We have the malware, which is malicious software designed to harm a computer system. There are different types of malware. Under malware, we have viruses, we have trojans, we have rootkits, we have ransomware, etc. All of these are malicious software, and they are designed to harm a computer, compromise a computer, steal data, manipulate a computer, etc. There are different targets or reasons for where hackers put up malware or develop malware. So the types of malware include the viruses. Viruses are computer programs that causes systems to malfunction. Worms are also in the category, under the category of malware, because they are self-replicating applications that ends up to eat up or consume your system resources. It can be storage, it can be processing power, it can be your RAM, etc. They are simply self-replicating, and their primary goal is consuming or utilizing your system resources. While viruses will tend to cause havoc to your files, your system, in terms of causing malfunction, deleting files, modifying files, etc. Worms will self-replicate, targeting your system resources. Then we also have Trojans. Trojans are malicious applications that act like they are doing something legitimate, but in reality, they are carrying out an illegitimate activity behind the scene. Like what we mentioned during the last class, why an application, a calculator application requesting access to your contacts or to your camera, that can be considered some level of Trojan, depending on what that unwarranted request is meant for. So you can have different applications that tend to be good, but in reality, they are doing something malicious behind the scene. Applications for, especially applications that are kind of free. If you see a free application, next week you should ask yourself, what is the developer benefiting from this? So sometimes applications are free. While they are free, they tend to attract more users. But in the long run, they also have ulterior motive behind it. So these are things that can also be considered when putting up or when installing an application. All of these are under malicious software. Then we also have the ransomware. The ransomware are applications that encrypt your files, take charge of your files, and demand a ransom. That is where the name originated from, ransomware. They demand a ransom in order to grant you access to your files again. So until you pay a certain amount provided by the application, majorly in Bitcoin, when you pay the money, that's when they grant you access to decrypt the files that it has encrypted. And in most cases, you don't really get to get your files back. So it's not recommended for you to negotiate with developers of any ransomware attack. That's why it's important. First thing you need to put in place is ensuring that you have your backup in place. That way, if there's a ransomware attack, you can easily fortify your defenses, then restore from backup. Then next we have zero-day attacks. Zero-day attacks are attacks exploiting vulnerabilities that are unknown to the software vendor. So sometimes you can develop an application, or developers develop applications, and they are not even aware of a particular vulnerability on the application. That particular vulnerability can be considered as a 0-day because it's unknown to the software developer. It's unknown to the user. They are just there. They've not been detected. They've not been identified, but their vulnerabilities, they exist. And that is also what contributes to why we say there's no system that's 100% secure. All right. There's no system that's 100% secure. Either you've been hacked or you are waiting to be hacked. So you must understand the two. And as always, prepare for them. Preparing for an attack is doing your risk assessment. After you doing your risk assessment, you're able to prioritize your risk and, of course, implement or put in place your defenses depending on how you identify the risk. So that way, if there's an attack, remember, you've either been attacked or you're waiting to be attacked. So if there's an attack, you can easily recover from the attack timely. So zero-day attacks, once again, they exploit vulnerabilities that are unknown to the vendor or the developer. Next, we have denial of service attacks, DOS. Then DOS are attacks that overwhelm a system with traffic, making it unreliable, unusable. If, for example, we have, for those of us physically connected, let's assume we'll have the hall capacity for 50 students or 50 persons per time, and you decide to flood it with 150 people. It becomes uncomfortable, it becomes unreliable, and it becomes sluggish. At the end of the day, you can't really achieve your intended goal. So same thing applies to system. By the time you overwhelm the system with traffic beyond what it is meant to take, beyond what what it has capacity to handle, it leads to a denial of service. So take, for example, you have a 2 gig RAM PC or a 4 gig RAM or an 8 gig RAM PC. At the end of the day, if you overflood it with excess applications that are requesting for too much resources, the system becomes sluggish, leading to a denial of service, because at the end of the day, you won't be able to effectively utilize that particular resource. Then, as an extension to that, there is what we also call distributed denial of service, DDoS. And this comes with having to use other factors or other machines, other devices to cause the overwhelming of a particular system resource. So I learned my sound is breaking. I don't think it's from my end though. For those online, can you hear me clearly? Okay, thank you. Yes, those online can hear clearly. I believe it's those that are physically present that maybe network issues. So let's move forward. For the distributed denial service, it tends to use more devices to cause an overwhelming of a system, an overwhelming of a network. And sometimes they are really not real humans, okay? They can be machines configured to launch or direct traffic towards a particular resource, and in the long run, it overpowers or overwhelms the system. So next, we talk about physical security. For importance, physical access to a device can bypass the operating system. The moment you gain a physical access to a particular device, you can cause havoc to that operating system. So while you're talking about operating system security, we should never neglect the physical security of that system. It's just like having your laptop or your mobile phone, and you feel because you have your phone passworded, you could just carelessly drop it. The moment you carelessly do that, someone gaining physical access to that device, to that resource, he or she can can compromise the system, can compromise the device. So physical security is also important, just like your operating system security. So all of this works hand in hand together. Physical security is the first line of defense when you're even talking about operating system security. Remember where we started from. Your operating system is sitting on your physical hardware, right? And if that hardware is not secure, it means both the hardware, the operating system, and the applications running on the operating system, they have all been compromised. So there's a need to ensure that yes, your physical security is intact. Securely keep your devices and ensure all is safe. So let's take, for example, your you neglected physical security and you focused on operating system security. After putting in all the XYZ and all of that, you put in your antivirus, you put in everything in place, and you carelessly keep your computer somewhere or your mobile device or whatever, however you tend to, neglect physical security. Someone now comes up, pick up that device, possibly extracted the hard drive, possibly used forensic tools to do recovery on the hard drive. So everything that has been stored, that has been deleted, and all of that, they are now being extracted. You have simply compromised your system, your data. So why the operating system security is important, the application security is important, it's also important to also look at the physical security, which is that of the hardware. So measures to implement physical security includes locked rooms. You can ensure your PC, your device is sitting in a safe physical location, the room, the premises. Then security cameras, can put security cameras in place for securing, basically for the physical security. Then you can also implement access control. Access control that uses either what you have, what you are, or what you know. What you have can be your physical token or your RFID card. That is what you have. What you know can be a password, a passphrase, etc. It deals majorly with what you know. Then what you are is features of your personality, which can be your biometrics, either your fingerprint, your facial look, even voices. Yes, today there's voice recognition as a tool. If you're talking to Siri or you're talking to Alexa, voice recognition can also be used. In other words, anybody that's coming, that is giving any command, not with your pre-recorded or pre-saved voice, you shouldn't accept it. So all of these are under what you are, because these are features that are unique to you. So moving forward, software vulnerabilities. There are different vulnerabilities for software, different vulnerabilities. What are they? They are flaws in software code that can be exploited by attackers. There are flaws in software code that can be exploited by attackers. So software vulnerabilities can vary and they differ in dimension and impact. So the impact level may be small, the risk level may be high. There are some that are just informational. There are some that are low, medium, high, and there are some that are critical. So they can be exploited by hackers, and the impact can be categorized into what I just mentioned. Either they are informational, or they are low, they are medium, they are high, or they are critical. So how do you mitigate against these software vulnerabilities? How do you mitigate against them? We have using keeping your software up to date is a mitigation strategy for it. You have to keep your software up to date. You have to ensure that you are not just keeping the software up to date. In a case where you are housing a particular software on your own infrastructure, infrastructure, you also have to ensure the the updating of that infrastructure, because if you have an application that is running in an old environment, there's tendency for that environment to be compromised, leading to the successful attack of your own application. So it's not just enough to focus on the application security or the software you're running per time. The infrastructure where that application is sitting on, you also have to pay close attention to it. So next is using security scanning tools as much as possible. If that is why there are solutions today we call SIM solutions, security incident and event management system, SIM solutions. Okay, so they actually enable continuous monitoring, continuous scanning tools you can deploy and put in place. They help you monitor the system 24/7. If it's a network environment, they help you monitor your network around the clock. That is why we also have IDS and IPS. They are continuously scanning your network environment, scanning your operating system, looking for abnormalities, looking for threats, looking for malicious signatures, identified malicious signatures. So just same way you have an antivirus on your system that's continuously scanning and checking for new files being introduced to the system and scanning them for threats, bugs, viruses, etc. Yeah, there is need for you to put in place security scanning tools. These are to ensure that security flaws are detected early, and of course, they are remediated, mitigated as early as they are, as soon as they are detected. They also have to follow secure coding practices. That is, now in the development process of your programs, your software, your application, ensure you follow the secure coding practices. A lot of times developers in this part of the world, their focus is primarily on developing for the application to work, outrightly neglecting security, which is a major setback if that is the case. So not following standard secure coding practices can lead to the compromise of an application, because you're just developing with the mindset of getting the application to work, to carry out the function you want it to carry out, and neglecting the security of the application by simply not following secure coding practices. So it's very much important if you have a developer or a team developing an application or a solution for you, it's very much important for you to ensure that they are following global best secure coding practices. That way they don't develop porous, malicious systems for you. So we move to social engineering. What is social engineering? What is it? It is simply manipulating people to gain access to systems or information. No matter how secure a particular system is, you've implemented the latest operating system, you've updated to the latest operating system, you've implemented the latest security checklist, you've installed the latest antivirus, the latest IDS, maybe you're possibly even running on VPN and all of that, doing encryption, decryption, doing all of that. If the human utilizing that system is not knowledgeable enough, does not have the right awareness, and he or she fall prey to social engineering attack, the entire system can be compromised. So manipulating people to gain access to systems or information is what social engineering talks about and it covers. So common tactics include phishing emails, pretexting, baiting, smishing, vishing, etc. These are tactics used for social engineering. If I'm doing a phishing email, I can send an email asking the recipient to click on a link to update his or her credentials, or I'm sure you must have heard of or seen emails telling you your account is being debited, say 50,000 naira monthly or weekly or even daily. That to stop that transaction, click on this link, log in, and stop the transaction. In the process, if you click on that link, there are high tendencies that that is a malicious phishing link. So it's important for us to know these things. Then you can talk of pretexting and phishing, smishing and vishing. Smishing is more of SMS, sending SMS to people. You must have received SMS, even sometimes from telecom providers. Your telecom providers will send you an SMS telling you send yes to participate in this promo, or it can be do you want to opt for this particular service, and the options they are providing you. Yeah, I've seen it. The two options they are providing you. If you click the A, you are subscribing. If you click the B, you are subscribing. Now you have just two options. So in that situation, you are just left. The best response you can do is not to respond at all, because any response you are giving, you are opting for an unwanted service. So a lot of times, if you don't read the instructions or read the message carefully, you can easily fall prey to that. Then phishing is social engineering through voice. Someone can call you, hello, are you Mr. This? Are you Mr. That? If yes, they start asking you questions, they start throwing things at you. And if you're not careful, you get to fall prey. And there have been cases where different WhatsApp accounts, individual WhatsApp account, group WhatsApp accounts are being taken over by this. Someone could just reach you, hello, there's a meeting scheduled for 7 p.m. tonight. Are you aware of it? If not, okay, there's a meeting. We want to create a dedicated meeting link for you. There's a code that will be sent to you now shortly. If you provide that code to them, you have simply handed your WhatsApp migration or transfer authentication code to the attacker. So in most cases, part of the tactics for social engineering is phishing. Then how do you defend against social engineering? There are different ways you can defend against social engineering. One is education and awareness. Very important. Education and awareness. Awareness can never be too small. That is why in the global community, there's a day dedicated, there's a month, not even a day, a whole full month dedicated for cybersecurity awareness. And that is the month of October every year. Cybersecurity awareness for everybody, for employees, for staff, for management, for children, for elderly people, for everybody. Why education and awareness can never be too much. Next is implementing strong security policies. It is not just enough to deploy the latest applications, deploy the latest infrastructure, deploy the latest operating system, update your firewall, update your antivirus, and all of that. And if you don't have strong cybersecurity policies, you're still going to likely end in a state of compromise. Then sometimes I've even been to organizations while consulting, you get to find out that there are these organizations that they have policies in place, but implementing the policies is a big challenge. Or the policies are waived off for a particular category of people. Let's say the management staff. Some policies are waived off for them. Then some policies, it's sometimes in organizations out of experience, it is not only management staff. There are some policies within some organizations. They just feel these policies are not relevant to the lower class, or the those are the lowest chain of the hierarchy, the organizational hierarchy. For example, the cleaners, the security guards, and the errand office assistants, etc. No, the policies are also kind of to be meant for all. There are policies that should be for all. Anything that any category of person is having engagement with or interact with in the course of their day-to-day activity, the policies should apply. So take, for example, you have a PC. If there's a policy restricting users from plugging external flash drives, USB sticks into any PC, that policy should not apply to those that are working in that department alone, even your cleaners, because the cleaner is unaware, he or she can come in and out of curiosity may want to plug in something to your device. So all of these are things that we should also look at when it comes to enforcing or creating policies. So to mitigate against social engineering, while you're having your strong policies, security policies, also ensure that yes, you are enforcing them and implementing them. Very important. So next, we look at types of malware. Types of malware. Malware, like we mentioned earlier, is a software that is designed to attack, control, and damage the device security. There are softwares that are designed to attack, control, and damage the device's security and infrastructure system. So we have the ransomware. I've described the ransomware earlier. Then we also have what we call fileless malware. We also have the fileless malware. We have the mobile malware. Then we also have wiper malware, we have adware, we have Trojan, we have spyware, etc. The list is endless. Sometimes, remember, technology is evolving on a daily basis, and due to that, there are also increase in the kind of malwares that are being developed on daily basis by attackers. So we also have spyware, we have viruses, we have worms, we have rootkits, etc. So before we proceed into describing all of this in details, let's ask questions. Going through the online. Questions, please.
No question, sir, from the physical students.
Okay. From online participants, any question? Let me go through the messages and see if there are questions from the online participants. Attendance. Please, those asking for attendance, admin attend to attendance, please. Attendance link not working, some people. Okay, so someone is asking, what's the system specification for you to use for this program? What's the system specification for you to use for this program? Basically, on the average, in our current world, the average system spec you should be having should be 8 gig RAM. At the time, it was 1 gig. At other times, it increased to 2 gig, 4 gig. Currently, on the average, very basic, 8 gig RAM. If you want to take a step further, you can go to 16 gig RAM, 32 gig RAM, and all of that. But on the average, it's 8 gig RAM. With 8 gig RAM, you should be fine, at least with the basics, where you don't have or you're not processing too much. So 8 gig RAM, perfect. Core i5, 8 gig RAM, yes, that's fine. Okay, so I think basically okay, yeah. So something, yes, I actually came across this yesterday, and was it yesterday? And I immediately debunked it on the group. There's a link currently being circulated, going around, asking people to use it to make corrections for their N9 or on their N9 with the so there's actually a link that I have been circulating asking for update to N9. If you click on it, it will take you to one blog spot and filled with a lot of ads and all. It's actually targeting more of targeting ads and of course stealing data. So as much as possible, let's all be vigilant, like the phishing or the social engineering we just talked about. Yes, that is one of them. So it's important for every one of us to be sure that yes, whatever link you're clicking on per time, always validate the URL. Very important. So how can you detect and trace a suspicious link? To trace that is very simple and is very straightforward. Ensure that round the clock, whatever you're doing, or any link or any site you are visiting, preferably if you have the URL, type it yourself. So take, for example, I'm visiting this university website. Instead of visiting the site through a link received by an untrusted or from an untrusted source, it's best you go and type in the URL yourself. Or be sure to validate the origin of that link, who is sending it to you. And after sending it, a lot of times it's not just about the sending. If you copy a link or you see a link, let's assume the link is carrying Base University IDS training program or training class or training session. There might be URL obfuscation or URL masking. So sometimes if you hover your mouse on it, it will show you the actual URL. So sometimes it will not hover. If you hover, it will not show you. But if you click on it, it will lead you to a link. So every link you're seeing, after clicking on it, and it finally takes you to the destination, also try as much as possible to pay attention to the URL. This is very important. Pay attention to the URL. If you pay attention to the URL, you can get a better level of result. Yes. Okay, so yeah, I think I like this. I like this. Someone is saying that someone tried to dupe another person using my voice. How did he do that? It's very easy. Very, very easy. In our today's world, we talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now we have different AI environments that can do what we call voice cloning. Take, for example, you can replay my voice from previous videos or from previous classes into an AI environment that clone voices. So you can actually, in reality, clone my voice. And the moment you clone the voice, you can use that voice to respond to inquiries. You can use that voice to communicate with people. You can use that voice to do whatever you want to do. So take for example, I have I've cloned a voice or the person asking Chinwe. If I clone your voice and I've saved it and I'm messaging or I'm having a conversation with someone, all I need to do is to enable my text to voice option, right? With the text to voice, whatever responses I want, I type it in the text and it will read it out. And as it's reading it out, it's reading it out with your voice, not my voice. Why? Your voice or that particular voice has been cloned earlier. So someone reading out or the AI environment, the device, the application reading out in your voice for the other person to hear. The other person is hearing your voice. So the person can be like, hello, how are you? I'll be like, I'm fine. How are you too? As I'm typing it, it's giving a response. Okay, so that is feasible. Someone can actually clone your voice to dupe others. I hope that's clear, Ma'am Chinwe. Okay.
Hello, sir. Someone have question here.
All right, please go ahead.
Can you use what virus?
Hear that, please. I think you're far from the microphone. Please repeat the question, Mr. Awal. I
Hello,
think
sir.
I
Can you
can't
hear me?
hear.
He say if you are
I can
checking
hear.
URL, can you use virus? Hello, sir.
Yeah.
He say if you are checking URL, can you use virus total?
Yes, you can use virus total. There are different anti-spyware, anti-malware, antivirus applications out there, which you can use. So someone is asking, what's the difference? What's the difference between worms and denial of service attacks? Yeah, it's clear. Worms are self-replicating malicious programs. They are self-replicating. I mentioned it earlier. They focus on consuming your system resources. They can eat up your space. They can consume your processing power in terms of RAM. And most times, these are happening at the background. You've seen cases, or you must have experienced a case where a flash drive is, for example, 16 gig RAM, and you put in a document of, let's say, uh, 2 gig, and before you know it, the 2 gig, by the time you're plugging that flash drive to your PC, is telling you the flash drive is full. And you begin to wonder, I'm not seeing anything. And a lot of times this happens, especially those days that even till date, where cyber cafe is prevalent, and you have to be using flash drives to transfer files for printing or for whatnot. So the moment you're giving them a flash, Jesus, that they should rest assured that flash is coming back with foreign bodies. So as much as possible, these are that is a way of spreading malware. Okay, so let's proceed. Let's proceed. When we finish, we'll give another room for the final set of question and answers. Let's touch this malware. Ransomware, we've discussed ransomware effectively, and we've given detail of what it is. So next is fileless malware. The fileless malware, the mobile fileless malware basically are also known as memory resident malware. Okay, they live off the land. They are actually the type of malicious software that resides in your RAM. There is not a particular file. You can't really say it's a .exe file or a .pdf file or any file extension. Neither are they attached to any file. For example, there are sometimes if you receive a PDF document or a Microsoft Word document that is infected, if you run it, you can infect your system. But in this case, they are fileless. They are not actually in any file. They are not also written to disk. Then we have mobile malware. Mobile malware talks about malwares for mobile environment. Okay, there are malwares for mobile environment, and this can be in different forms, either in different trojans, etc. Then we also have wiper malware. These are type of malware or software that are actually designed to irreplicably damage or destroy computer systems. The goal is just destruction, right? Then we have hardwares for advertising that brings up pop-up ads, and or we have trojans. Trojans, they are applications or malwares that act like they are doing something legitimate, but in reality, they are carrying out an illegitimate act behind the scene. Then we have spyware. Spywares are majorly for spying, e.g., you have keyloggers. Keyloggers too are also malware. We have physical keyloggers, we have software keyloggers. The physical ones, they come in in flash drive format with USB thumb drive. So you plug it in and it's capturing your keystrokes. Then some, they come as modules. something that can stand between your keyboard and your CPU or your system. So when you plug your keyboard to it and you plug it to the system, so it can capture whatever keystrokes that are, you know, hit by the user, strike, or as the case may be. Then we also have viruses. I think I've also talked about viruses. They are programs that causes systems to malfunction. You have worms. We've talked about worms self-replicating. Then we have rootkits for for root systems. Then we have botnets for a larger network combination or yes interconnection of different bots to launch attack. So with this final question before we round up the session, last remaining 10 minutes, we use it for final questions for the day. Then someone mentioned or is talking about resources. Yes, I'll share the resources. All the resources are one single document. That's why I've not shared it actually. But I think what I'll do, maybe I'll just break it into pieces and be sharing them separately. So any question for before we round up for today? Questions from physical, questions from online.
Yeah.
Thank you. My question is on finest malware and rootkit. Please, can you throw more light on it in respect to their attack vector and how to prevent it and
Okay,
how it operates in the system or memory? Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much for that question. Now, like I mentioned earlier, fileless malware, these are malware that resides in system memory. Okay, they are actually living off land, and they are malicious. Of course, is a malware. They resides in memory. They do not write anything to files or disk. Then they use this existing system tools and applications to carry out malicious actions. Okay. Then finally, evade traditional security software that relies on file-based detection. So you have software that rely on file-based detection. For example, let's assume you have a particular. Can you please mute the microphone? Thank you. Thank you. So, for example, you have a particular security software that focuses on, or its primary focus is on malicious applications or malwares that are file based. It will outrightly evade it. Why? It is not written to file. It is not written to disk. Rather, they capitalize on system resources and hardware. So next is fireware. The techniques for fileless malware includes code injection into legitimate processes. It can inject malicious code into legitimate processes. Then it can also abuse of system tools like the PowerShell or Windows Management Instruction. Okay, that is the WMI, uh, Windows Management Instrumentation. So abuse of system, fileless malware abuses systems. Then it also uses existing system files to hide malware code. So now existing system files can be used to hide the malware codes. As for characteristics, it's difficult to detect. It leaves no trace on the disk because it is fileless. Then it can survive system reboots. Even if you reboot the system several times, it can survive it because it's not cloned to anything. Then it's often used for espionage, data theft, or in most cases, ransomware attacks too. Then when you now talk of what's the name? Rootkits now. Rootkit is a malware, unlike the fileless malware. What's this? Someone sent me a video. Unlike the fileless malware, rootkits are types of fireware or malicious software that they hide itself in other malware. Okay, they are you don't get to they don't get to manifest themselves directly, so they are hiding themselves behind other malwares, and they gain unauthorized access to systems, allowing attackers to take control of a particular system. So take, for example, you have an application and the rootkit is installed on that application, or it attaches itself to the application. It enables the attacker to take control of that application itself. Okay, it conceals its presence by manipulating system files, system data, etc. So the attack vectors for fileless malware are the physical system, the resources itself, while the attack vector for a rootkit are other malicious programs or legitimate programs. So typically, rootkits can be set to steal sensitive data, which is normal. They install additional malware, then they also cause system to crash unnecessarily. Of course, when your system is malfunctioning, that is a clear sign of a malware attack. So preventions for that: how do you prevent rootkits? You can ensure you are keeping your software up to date. You're using reputable security software, valid software. Don't just go online and download anything or any application based on it's telling you it can remove files and whatnot. Then ensure you're implementing a robust security configuration. A lot of times it is with security configurations. Yes, any other question while I check online for online this thing? Can one particular antivirus tackle all kinds of viruses? Okay, so Kasim is asking, can one particular antivirus tackle all kind of viruses? The way viruses operate and the way antivirus and viruses operate is, if there's a virus detected in, let's say, in Nigeria, your antivirus company, if they get to come across that virus, they pick up the virus, they do reverse engineering, they generate a signature for it, and they release it as an update, meaning all users of that antivirus globally will receive a notification that there's an update. The antivirus database will be updated. It means anywhere that that virus appears on a system and the antivirus get to detect the signature, because it has been updated, it will notify the user. It will see it as a virus and it will either quarantine it, delete it, or stop the application from running. So now deciding which application vendor, which antivirus vendor, or which particular antivirus is best for you is dependent on how well and how often your antivirus provider update their database. So if you have an antivirus company that is sluggish, you may end up not receiving update on latest malwares or viruses detected. So that question as to can one antivirus handle all kinds of viruses? It can be yes. Yes, if your antivirus provider is always up to date, identifying viruses as they are being identified, created, and they are generating um, virus signatures or malware signatures for them and releasing to you as an update. But if you have an antivirus vendor that is not doing that up to date frequently, they are not up to date, it means you can't see anything and it cannot defend against malwares. Thank you. Any other question? This physically present any question before round up.
Yes, sir.
All
Actually,
right.
sorry for taking you back, sir. I didn't
No
get
problem.
capture it well when you were explaining about using URL scanning by typing it instead of clicking. So I want to verify if a URL contain a malicious link and you type it instead of clicking, does it mean it will not work? That malicious code there will not work. Thank you.
No, not like that. Thank you very much for that question. Now, please let's understand the difference. What I mentioned earlier was ensure you know the URL you are visiting, a validated URL. So take, for example, I made use of Base University. as in my example. If you're going to Biz University website, type the website yourself, Biz University. If you type the website yourself as Biz University, you will be able to, it will take you directly to Biz University website. Unlike when you are clicking it from somewhere, let's say someone send you an email with the link, please click on this link to join the session. If you click on that link, it may end up taking you to a different URL entirely. That is one. Two, there are sometimes if you visit a malicious URL or a malicious website, you're definitely going to be getting malicious content. So it's very much important for us to know the URL we are visiting. It is legitimate. You type in it yourself, or after clicking, you've revalidated the URL you've typed. Then sometimes it's not, when it comes to security, it's very, very important. Sometimes I can even do what we call network level cloning. I can clone your MAC address at the network level, such that whatever you do, if you're going, that's why you also advise don't connect through unknown websites, because whatever you do on those environments is passing through somewhere. Someone can also hijack it. But most importantly, why I mentioned typing the URL is so that you are sure of the URL you are visiting. That does not mean if you visit a malicious site, you will not be infected, because some of us, we deliberately go to malicious sites for illegal drugs, sites for malicious download, cracked software. We are looking for premium software that have been cracked. If you download it, those cracks, they are coming with additional attachments aimed at you, the user, or the person that want to download it. So I hope that is clear. Thank you. Any other one before we round up?
So they're asking for the lecture notes.
Yes, I've
And
mentioned that.
also,
I will admit it.
no, wait.
He said all of them are in one file. That once it's done with this one, it's done with this one.
So what I said about that, I have all of the slide as one, okay? Like today's slide is continuation from the last part we stopped. So what I will do now is I'll just export, I will break it, previous ones, once we are done with the class, I'll send it out. Once we are done with the class, I'll send it out. So your slides will be available to you. All right, everyone, it's 11:30 already. Thank you all for joining today's session. See you guys next week, Saturday. Thank you for listening, and thank you for having me today. Good morning once again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye-bye.